"I can't do this anymore," Michael Jordan whispered through tears to his shocked teammates. The man who had demanded perfection from everyone was falling apart in front of their eyes. What had pushed the greatest competitor in history to his breaking point would reveal the one thing Michael valued more than winning. December 15, 1997. The Chicago Bulls locker room at the United Center. The defending champions had just lost their third game in a row, and the media was calling it the beginning of the end for the Bulls dynasty. But what happened in that locker room after the game had nothing to do with basketball and everything to do with the human cost of being Michael Jordan. This isn't just a story about a champion having a bad night. It's about the moment when the most mentally tough athlete in history learned that strength isn't about never breaking down. It's about what you do after you break. The 1997-98 season was supposed to be a victory lap. Michael Jordan and the Chicago Bulls were coming off their 5th championship, and everyone expected them to cruise to number 6. But from the very beginning, something was different. Michael seemed on edge in ways his teammates had never seen before. He was more demanding in practice, more critical of mistakes, more isolated from the team. The jokes and camaraderie that had carried them through previous championships were replaced by a cold intensity that made everyone uncomfortable. Mike was different that year, Scottie Pippen would later recall. We all knew it was probably our last season together, but there was something else eating at him, something bigger than basketball. The media pressure was relentless. Every game was dissected, every loss was treated like a crisis, every comment from Michael was analyzed for signs of weakness or frustration. The spotlight that had once energized him now felt like it was burning him alive. But the real pressure was coming from somewhere else entirely. What Michael's teammates didn't know, what nobody outside his inner circle knew, was that the threats against his family had gotten worse, much worse. Ever since his father's death in 1993, Michael had been hyper-vigilant about his family's safety. He had hired the best security money could buy, had moved his mother to a more secure location, had tried to shield his children from the darker side of his fame. But the letters kept coming. Phone calls to his home at all hours. People claiming they knew where his kids went to school, where his mother lived, what route his wife took to work. The FBI was involved, but they couldn't be everywhere at once. "Mr. Jordan," one letter had read, "you think you're untouchable, but your family isn't. We know where they are. We're watching." Michael had dealt with threats before, but these felt different, more specific, more credible, and they were coming more frequently as the season wore on and the Bulls' championship chase intensified. He couldn't tell his teammates. He couldn't tell the media. He couldn't even tell his family the full extent of what he was dealing with. He was carrying this burden completely alone, and it was destroying him from the inside. December 15th started like any other game day. Morning shoot-around, team meal, pre-game preparation. The Bulls were playing the Indiana Pacers, a team they should have handled easily. But Michael seemed distracted, unfocused in a way that was completely unlike him. During warm-ups, he kept glancing at the crowd, scanning faces, looking for threats that probably weren't there. His teammates noticed but didn't say anything. You didn't question Michael Jordan's preparation rituals. The game was a disaster. Michael shot 4 for 17 from the field, turned the ball over 6 times, and seemed to be playing in slow motion. The Pacers won by 15 points, and the United Center crowd, Michael's home crowd, actually booed him as he walked off the court. In the tunnel leading to the locker room, a reporter shouted a question. "Michael, are you worried about your family's safety affecting your game?" Michael stopped dead in his tracks. How did they know? Had the threats become public? Was his family in immediate danger? His security team quickly ushered him into the locker room, but the damage was done. The one thing he had been trying to keep separate from basketball, his family's safety, was now part of the public conversation. The Bulls' locker room after a loss was usually a place of controlled anger. Michael would pace, Phil Jackson would make adjustments, players would discuss what went wrong, but this time was different. Michael sat in his locker stall, still in his uniform, staring at the floor. His teammates were getting dressed, talking quietly among themselves, when they heard something that made them all stop. Michael Jordan was crying, not the frustrated tears of a competitor who had lost a big game. These were deep, body-shaking sobs that seemed to come from somewhere much deeper than basketball disappointment. The locker room went completely silent. Dennis Rodman, who had seen Michael at his angriest and most competitive, had never seen him like this. Scottie Pippen, who had been Michael's partner for nearly a decade, was frozen in shock. "I can't do this anymore," Michael whispered, his voice broken and barely audible. Phil Jackson, who had coached Michael through every triumph and setback of his career, knelt down beside him. "What can't you do, Michael?" "I can't protect them," Michael said through tears. "I can't keep my family safe and be Michael Jordan at the same time. Every time I step on this court, every time we win, every time my face is on television, I'm putting the people I love in danger." What came next was a confession that none of Michael's teammates were prepared for. For 20 minutes, the most private man in professional sports opened up about the burden he had been carrying alone. He told them about the threats, the letters describing his children's daily routines, the phone calls to his mother's house, the constant fear that his success was making his family a target. "Every night I go to bed wondering if tomorrow is the day someone tries to hurt my family because they want to hurt me," Michael said. "Every game we win, every championship we celebrate, I'm thinking about whether it's worth it if something happens to them." Steve Kerr, who had joined the Bulls just 2 years earlier, later described it as the most human he had ever seen Michael. "We all knew he was competitive, that he demanded excellence, that he hated losing more than anyone," Kerr said. "But we didn't know he was terrified. We didn't know that every day he walked onto that court, he was carrying this weight that none of us could imagine." The tears weren't just about the threats, Michael explained. They were about the isolation, the impossibility of being the person everyone expected him to be while dealing with fears that he couldn't share with anyone. "I'm supposed to be fearless," he said. "I'm supposed to be the guy who never breaks down, who never shows weakness, but I'm terrified every single day, and I don't know how to do this anymore." Today, what happened next was something that would bond the Chicago Bulls in a way that no championship ever could. Without a word, Scottie Pippen sat down next to Michael, then Dennis Rodman, then Steve Kerr. One by one, every player on the team gathered around their leader, not as teammates, but as friends. "We had no idea," Pippen said quietly. "Mike, why didn't you tell us?" "Because it's not your problem," Michael replied. "It's mine." "Bullshit," Dennis Rodman said, speaking for the first time since Michael had started crying. "We're a team. Your problems are our problems." Phil Jackson, who had been listening quietly, finally spoke. "Michael, you've been trying to carry this alone because you think leadership means never showing vulnerability. But real leadership is knowing when to let people help you." What followed was a conversation unlike any that had ever happened in a professional sports locker room. Players talked about their own fears, their own pressures, their own struggles with the price of fame and success. Dennis Rodman talked about the death threats he had received. Scottie Pippen talked about the pressure of being in Michael's shadow. Steve Kerr talked about the anxiety of playing with legends and trying to measure up. "We all have stuff we're dealing with," Jackson said. "The difference is, you've been dealing with yours alone." That night, the Chicago Bulls became more than a basketball team. They became a support system. Phil Jackson arranged for the team to meet with security experts and psychologists. They developed protocols for dealing with threats and media pressure. They created a system where Michael could share his concerns without feeling like he was burdening his teammates. More importantly, they changed how they approached the rest of the season. It wasn't just about winning games anymore. It was about protecting each other, supporting each other, and making sure that no one had to carry their burdens alone. "From that night on, we played differently," Steve Kerr later said. "We weren't just trying to win for Michael anymore. We were trying to win with him. There's a difference." The media never learned the full story of what happened that night. The official explanation for Michael's breakdown was exhaustion and stress. But his teammates knew the truth, and that shared knowledge made them stronger. The change was immediate and dramatic. In the 3 games following the breakdown, Michael played some of the best basketball of his career. But more importantly, he seemed relaxed in a way he hadn't been all season. The difference wasn't just in Michael's play, it was in how the entire team interacted. They were more communicative, more supportive, more connected than they had been at any point during their championship runs. "That breakdown saved our season," Phil Jackson would later say. Michael had been trying to be superhuman, and it was killing him. When he finally admitted he was human, he became a better player and a better leader. The Bulls won 15 of their next 18 games. Michael's shooting percentage improved, his turnovers decreased, and most importantly, he started enjoying basketball again. But the real change was in how he handled pressure. Instead of carrying everything alone, he started trusting his teammates with his concerns. Instead of projecting invincibility, he started showing vulnerability when he needed support. 3 weeks after the breakdown, Michael had a conversation with his mother that changed how he saw his role as a leader and a family man. "Michael, I've been worried about you," Dolores Jordan said during one of their weekly phone calls. "Mom, I'm fine. We're playing better, the team is good. I'm not talking about basketball. I'm talking about you. You've been carrying so much weight, trying to protect all of us, that you've forgotten to take care of yourself. It's my job to protect you." "No, Michael, it's your job to be my son. It's your job to be a father to your children. It's your job to be a leader to your team. But it's not your job to be perfect, and it's not your job to carry every burden alone." That conversation helped Michael understand something crucial. Vulnerability wasn't weakness. It was the key to real strength. "I spent so many years trying to be invincible that I forgot being human was an option," he later told Phil Jackson. "When I finally let my teammates see me break down, they didn't think less of me. They thought more of me." The 1998 NBA Finals were the culmination of everything the Bulls had learned that season about teamwork, vulnerability, and shared strength. When Michael hit the shot over Brian Russell in Game 6 to win his 6th championship, his teammates didn't just celebrate the victory, they celebrated the journey that had brought them there, including the night when their leader had broken down and trusted them to help him heal. In the locker room after the game, as champagne flowed and cameras captured the celebration, Michael pulled Phil Jackson aside. "Thank you," he said. "For what?" "For teaching me that leaders don't have to be perfect. They just have to be human." That championship was different from all the others because it wasn't just about basketball excellence. It was about emotional courage, about a team that had learned to support each other through the hardest moments, not just the triumphant ones. The breakdown in December 1997 didn't just change Michael Jordan's basketball career. It changed how he approached life. He started being more open with his family about the pressures he faced. He began working with therapists and counselors to develop better coping mechanisms. He learned that asking for help wasn't a sign of weakness, it was a sign of wisdom. "That night taught me something I wish I had learned earlier," Michael would later reflect. "You can't be strong for other people if you're not honest about your own struggles. You can't lead a team if you're not willing to let them help you." The threats against his family continued, but Michael's approach to dealing with them changed completely. Instead of carrying that fear alone, he shared it with security professionals, law enforcement, and his support system. Instead of letting it consume him, he used it to fuel his determination to succeed. Most importantly, he learned that vulnerability could be a source of strength rather than a sign of weakness. Today, when athletes talk about mental health, when teams discuss emotional support, when leaders admit they don't have all the answers, they're following a path that Michael Jordan helped create on one December night in 1997. The breakdown that nearly ended his career became the foundation for his greatest championship. The moment when he admitted he couldn't do it alone became the reason his team was able to do it together. People remember Michael for his competitiveness, his skill, his clutch shots, Phil Jackson said years later, but I remember him for the night he cried in front of his teammates and showed them that even legends need help sometimes. The Chicago Bulls' 6th championship wasn't just about basketball greatness, it was about human connection. About a group of men who learned that strength comes not from never falling down, but from helping each other get back up. Michael Jordan's breakdown didn't make him less of a leader, it made him a better one. It didn't make him weaker, it made him more human. And sometimes, being human is the strongest thing you can be. The greatest competitor in sports history learned that night that winning isn't just about defeating your opponents. Sometimes, it's about defeating the voice in your head that tells you that you have to face everything alone. That's a victory that lasts longer than any championship trophy. That's a lesson that goes far beyond basketball. That's the moment when Michael Jordan stopped being just a great player and became a great leader. Some breakdowns break you down, others break you open. Michael Jordan's breakdown did both, and that's what made what happened next incredible.